Hello from the yarn closet can we do it like this? Let's switch it, see how that works. In Southern Arizona. Oh, and I just turned it on without using this. Oh, whatever. I know. I need to take a shower and do my hair. It's god awful. It's at this length. I absolutely hate it. But I'm hoping a couple more months and we'll get past that. Yesterday I actually had it back in a bit of a pony, which my daughter thought was crazy. But I'm of the age at 52 where I feel like that's not good. But this is a knitting podcast with some life stuff. Oh, did you hear that click? We've had a few nights in the 30s, the last few nights. A couple of days in the 60s. Today is like 71, 75, I don't know, whatever. But I'm starting a project on my knitting machine, and I just finished this sweater. It's a crocheted, no, this is not crocheted, this is knit. This is a knit sweater that I knit the back panel and then the two front panels, and I did them the exact same total number of stitches. It's drop shoulder. And one skein of that big Lion Brand skein of Jiffy. And what I did is I just literally did them so that they seamed them completely, so that it's kind of a point. And so can you see kind of how that comes together? It's you'd think it would be uncomfortable. But remember that hexagon sweater I did? That got seamed the same way, that green one that I sent to a friend. It's really not uncomfortable, and I think if I'd had enough yarn to do a shawl collar, it would have been a great way to get a really effective shawl collar. I absolutely yarn chickened this sucker because there was only about 800, I think it was 800 yards, and this is what I have left. I mean, I yarn chickened it. And there were like 4 places that had these, which really pissed me off when you find that in a skein. And I didn't know if I would have enough to, so I have to kind of continually push them on the inside. It has not been blocked yet. I don't know that that'll make a world of difference. This is acrylic, it's Jiffy. And remember how the sides were off, the stripes were off a bit? You really can't tell in the final product. They weren't off enough to matter. And I just left them the same circumference. If I'd had enough yarn, I would have maybe balloon sleeved them. I'm finding that I like that idea. I think it works better in knit versus crochet unless you're doing a really drapey crochet. Because I have that red sweater and I don't like the way the sleeves are starting. They're starting too big, but it was a raglan and I've already got the body done. I don't want to rip out the body to take the raglan back, but the sleeves are too big here in the red one. I only have so much of that red yarn, so I don't know. That's in hold land. I just spread Chip's ashes this morning. That was tough. I cried a little bit beforehand. It was tough. I love him so much. And when you get an animal as a puppy, you really don't know what their personality is, or a kitten, and you don't really know if you actually have the best scenario for them. And I always kind of wondered, Chip loved me, and I loved Chip, but I always kind of felt like we didn't quite have the right life for him, that he would have been better maybe as an only dog. You know, my husband never really liked him. And apparently liked Sadie an awful lot more, but other than the fact he didn't really yell at her, I don't know how you could tell. So that was a conundrum. But I have a cat right now, Baby, who I love. When I had all the feral cats, it was the only feral cat to ever come up to me as a tiny, tiny kitten. And just loved me no matter what. But she's not getting along great with some of our other cats. Seems like there's just one in particular. But he's the one of the ones that absolutely has to get out and has to go and whatever. And I see him further afield. And I'm not sure that there's anything to do about it other than to wait and see how it plays out. Because Baby and Blue weren't getting along. He's our big 20-pound white cat, but they were playing the other day. So that seems to have shifted now that the kitten has been fixed and hormones seem to be changing in her. She seems to be becoming a little bit quieter, just marginally so. And but it's nice. We just got through the Taurus moon eclipse, full moon eclipse. And is it Pluto is shifting out of Capricorn by the end of January? So these next few months are going to be ones that I try to just kind of immerse myself in the joy of parenting, which has been very fun as I have a new driver with permit. Seeing him really blossom as he takes on those driving challenges. Having some of the holiday things to be able to do with the kids has been really fun this year. Gives me hope for the future, and I'm just really proud of my kids this year. It's, you know, third grade's a hard year. Things shift dramatically in school. And I'm proud of them. 11th grade, I'm proud of him. You know, the reality that the end of high school is coming and then there has to be this other thing. He's really handling it well. Proud of him. I love him. My parents are doing okay. Kitty and Ed are in Tucson since March of last year, and they're finally having some really fun times because people are coming back to their 55 plus park. Snowbirds tend to come back in October through April. And so that's been fun to see them kind of get to enjoy a little bit of that. Going to do a swatch here on the 5, 10, 15, 20. I'll do 25 stitch swatch. Let's see what I get. On my LK100, I have an LK150 that actually has 200 stitches because I added parts, and I have that boxed up because I just don't use it very often. It would be better for this weight of yarn, but I'm gonna see how this goes if I can get by on the LK100, because LK100s have different panel cartridges, these things, and I've set mine up to use the same one as an LK150. So I have a table that I've actually drilled a base for the yarn feeder into, and so I can use the LK150 cartridge things, carriers, that's what we call it, a carrier, because I can use ones for color work on this, and it works just fine. I love it. But I have that one boxed up because I would actually like to sell it, get rid of it, because I just don't use it enough, and I feel like I'm going through another site change, and that one's just not going to be it for me long term. I also have a linker, a Hague linker. It's electric, works lovely. I'm also ready to give that up because as my eyes getting worse, that's just not going to be a long-term thing. So if you know anybody, let them know. Email me at theyarncloset@yahoo.com and we can talk about it. I like this 100 because I have set it up with the other carriers, which are easier to use than the one that comes with it. Gives it more flexibility, and I like the gauge for the worsted weight or DK weight yarns. It's actually quite convenient to make blankets in panels, and then you can seam them. Or there are ways to connect them together using the machine that are kind of fun. And I think long term that's probably the thing. You can make even socks on a flatbed machine. And I just think that this works, this gauge, this 9mm gauge works better for me long term and as my eyes shift. So I'm also trying to really downsize my yarn closet, if you will. I'm going through yarns. I'm not buying more yarns. I'm really trying to do that because I could see some downsizing in the future, and we'll see how that goes. Plus, the more you have to keep track of, and as you lose your sight and you can't visually quickly, it's harder. So I don't want to be overly consumptive. Like, I want to use what I have, save what I have, resource-wise for other things. And I'm coming to a place where I'm a bit more of a monogamous knitter crocheter. Like, I don't have as many whips going that I end up frogging. I tend to stick with 2 or 3 things going on at once, and then get those done over a 4 to 6 month period, and then dive into a few more kind of deal. And of course, having a few days of cool really motivates. Okay, let's see how this goes. Okay, got that set. Now we're going to hang the weights. We're going to do a few more passes. I know you can't hear this, which is part of the fun. Oops, didn't take all the stitches. Oh, yeah, that's not fabulous. Let's see if that helps. Okay, 3. Too much. All right, is this just wonky enough? I need to do a little bit of this. Let's do some of this. Sometimes if you realize that your gauge is too tight, if you just bring all your needles out. Oh yeah, that seems to be helping quite a bit. So, am I stitching every one? I'm stitching every one. can go down. Having a few more issues with that lower gauge. So the machines go from 1 to 9, and then there's some other numbers on there, and you can go, there's like half points. Yeah. But what you have to deal with is, and you've got a tension setting on your mast as well, how the tension feeding it in goes. So this is fingering weight yarn. I'm going to take it off my mast. And we are going to take a look, see. Okay, this is where we started. I started off at the loosest gauge and went up to about a 5. That was the highest gauge I went to. So the looser gauges didn't seem to really work. The 5 is what you've got in this middle section here where my fingers are. And once it's off the weights, because it's the weight pulls it down, keeps it knitting. Once it's off the weight, it looks just fine at a 5. And when we started to get to a 4 is when we started losing all these stitches. So I think I have it feeding at a 3 at the top. So it's very loose because you don't want any real tension. But 3 and 5 seem to be what we need to do for this. And remember, I live in Arizona, so even though this is a merino, fingering merino, and once you get the whole thing knit and the weight of it and wearing it, it's going to pull out a little bit. So it seems really nice to me, but there's still a bit of a see-throughiness to it. I think it'll work well. I am contemplating making a cocoon style sweater for my daughter's teacher. Because I have 1,600 yards. So I think I can make a decent sized cocoon sweater on my machine with minimal seaming and minimal finish work. I like a cocoon sweater that has a good amount of finish work, but I think what I will do is a folded, one end where it's folded over, and then just knit it down and leave where it comes together with no finishing, so it'll curl a little bit, and the other end will curl a little bit. So then the folded end, at least 20 rows folded, so 20, seam 1 row in a purl stitch, so the fold is actually more defined. It gives you that crease. Maybe 25, because I have 1,600 yards, and that will make a really big piece. So I may not even use all of it, have some left over for something in the future. I'm not great at the piecemeal things, but I'm starting to wind up a lot of my fingering weight into balls so that I can do, and because so much of my fingering weight is variegated or speckled or stuff, and my eyes are not friends with that so much anymore. I mean, I like a good stripy fingering weight sock or patterned sock, but at some point I'm either just going to donate the bunch or try to make something like a sea glass type sweater. I don't know that I have the patience for that. I've tried time and time again to do the mosaic style knitting or crocheting. I don't know, but that's my thought. I hate being wasteful. And it's frustrating because, like, right now, I'm just feeling really ill a lot. It's going for weeks. Makes me wonder if it didn't start kind of with that first eclipse on October 14th in my sign of Libra. I do feel like I'm letting go of a lot of the frustrations of the last couple of years, that I am back to embracing who I am and just, like I said, the give a damn hormone's gone, so you don't have to get along with me, but that also doesn't mean that I have to suffer through your stupidity or your negativity or whatever. And I can let it be known that I have a different feeling than you. It's becoming more and more important as I raise a daughter that I want to not have to put up with the BS that I put up with through much of my life as a woman. Oh, we have to people please everybody, and we have to be beautiful at every moment to the nth degree, and we have to be happy all the time. Women cannot be angry or negative. That's bullshit. You know, and it's sad and bullshit that my mom is the one who taught most of that to me. You know, and it's sad and bullshit that it's just turned her kind of into an angrier old person instead of like, I'm trying to go through this process, because one thing I've seen a couple times over now is when people get old, there's a turning point for everybody. They get kind of angry and short with everybody around them. Well, guess what? A lot of that, I believe, is because you didn't deal with your stuff earlier in life. You're feeling that the time has run out and you don't want to do the work anymore because you're tired. Okay. But realistically, the bullshit that I believe in is that we all need to be kind and considerate of our other human beings on the earth. You know? That's how we show love. We're kind and considerate. I don't have to agree with you, but I also don't have to make you know that I disagree with you. I don't have to have a fight about it. I can just live my life and you can live yours. And that's okay. I mean, that's the way it works. Realistically, most people have small lives. We think, oh, it'd be so cool to be, you know, Tom Holland and Zendaya and big fancy careers and stuff. Guess what? They have really small lives. They may get to meet a section of the populace that we don't get to meet. They may get to interact with them on movies and, you know, during their job time. But in their life, because they have chosen this thing, they're very isolated. You know, most of them aren't just going to the grocery store or going and doing their own shopping. You know, Matthew Perry sent his assistant out to do his daily errands because he can't do them himself, couldn't. And that's so weird. I had just picked his book from the Libby Library to listen to a few days before he passed. And I hope it was a peaceful passing. I believe that most people have peaceful passings. I've seen people die in front of me, and I think that most people in those moments, it is peaceful. I think that it's the people that end up in the drawn out, bedridden stages that suffer the most in their dying. unless they have a family or friends that come together around them in that time, that it can be joyous. People who don't want to acknowledge what's going on and push people away, I think, suffer needlessly at those ends. I think being able to recognize that you're coming to your end is a gift that we're all given, or most people are given. And, I really hope that for the people in my life, that they have that peace and that gift of passing peacefully. My husband's mother died suddenly, we believe, of a heart attack. She lived in a county where it wasn't required to have an autopsy after death. And so we're not entirely sure, but we believe she died of a heart attack. And you could tell days before she died, we were all together as a family, that she was really, her energy was really very limited, little within her. And I'm glad she didn't have to suffer in a long, drawn out, kind of bedridden state. Having had a stepdad who had kidney cancer and emphysema, that period of time was challenging, to watch him kind of go back and forth. And those people who work in hospice, if you know anybody, go buy them a meal, give them a gift card, give them a break. If you know anyone that's caretaking for somebody else, give them a break, because it is draining. It's absolutely draining and aging, and tough for those people around them. And as we move into the holiday season here in America, I think that we should try to keep those people and keep time for those people, because these can be even more emotionally difficult times. That's my real life 2 minutes for today. And I know you can't hear it, but there's my little fireplace. Can you see it? I really love those. I've got a couple of them. One of them that's bigger is in my house, in lieu of our indoor fireplace. Isn't that nice? Cat scratches. And I just have a skin tone where it just stays red for a really long time. I was worried at first that it was another skin cancer, but it's not. I realized after a few days that it's just the cat scratching me while I'm sleeping, the new one. And I listened to, the Swedish death cleaning lady. She's got some other books out, and I listened to her one about exuberant old age, and that was quite lovely. And I really agree with that. I mean, I really agreed with it, so it's worth a listen. And it's just basic common sense. When you get old, people don't want to hear about your aches and pains. If you want the young people in your life to be around you, be positive when they are around you, and they'll come back. If you're feeling lonely, volunteer. Reach out to friends. I know my oldest dad is struggling, as he physically can't do quite as much as he used to. He really suffered through the summer when a lot of his golfing buddies weren't around. He couldn't have golfed anyway. It would do him good to get out, because he lives in a 55 plus community, to get out and do some of their activities. He's like, but I don't know anybody. Well, you'll know them after the first time you play cards with them. That's the whole point. And it's scary, but it's only scary for a minute. And if you don't like it, you don't have to go back. I, for one, am really struggling with the idea of I would love to volunteer at my daughter's school. They have not accepted my volunteer application the last couple of years. My references have never been called. I used to work at a school in Tucson. I'm really debating what I should do because of the time in my life that I'm in. Should I wait until next year when my son is driving with a license and has the confidence to drive without me? Should I wait until that point? Which is where I'm leaning. Because next year I could really push things to be a volunteer or to have a position there and get involved. And I think that if my son is driving without my help, that would be maybe the way to go. And that's what I'm leaning towards. And that gives me a lot of joy and happiness. And sometimes we can't have things in the moment that we want them, and it's okay to wait, although it's hard. I think the waiting, the planning, the anticipation in all things can make stuff that much more wonderful. It's very hard to get kids to understand that they need to earn money to earn things because it takes time, and they all want stuff immediately nowadays. But I know that in the times that I've done it with my kids, that it's just so much more joyful when they do get that thing. And I think I have learned that through my knitting and my crochet. I think I've also learned through my knitting and crochet, and I try to apply it to life, is that you can start something and do it, and guess what? If it's not right, you can stop, take it apart, try it a different way, or if you have to stop and you have to redo some of it, shift it a little bit here and there to make it work, that you're really happier in the end. I know that blue sweater that I had to redo the waistband a couple times. I had it on the other day with a shirt tucked into my jeans, a long sleeve shirt, and I liked it quite a bit. It hit at a good spot. Could it have been a little bit longer? Sure. Is that because I just was done? But it's heavy enough that I don't know that I want it longer. I know that if I totally drench it and block it, I can pull it out longer, but I don't want to stretch out the arms. So maybe I'll try to drench the body without drenching the arms. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I've learned that it's worth giving it a try because I can always take it back to the way it was if I don't like it. And it's worth trying things and stopping and not feeling like a failure. I'm not a failure for the failed relationships, the ended relationships that got me to the relationships that I have in my life today. I've learned things in all the friendships that I no longer have. I've learned things in the love relationships. One thing I've really been praying a lot about lately and meditating on is that long-term love relationships are seasonal. It's okay to have those periods of time where you're just like, I need a little more space. And sometimes that space is building towards something else. And sometimes that space is just giving you that space in distance, so when you do come back together, it's better. I've certainly experienced that in my lifetime, over my lifetime, and I'm recognizing I think we do need to take time in our life to stop and realize what we have learned, because if we don't think about it, put words to it, write it down even, journal it, it just kind of comes and goes. And we get into this being in the moment of each day, or getting overly busy and being so scheduled that we don't really see or recognize where we've been. I don't want to live in the past. I don't want to live in the future. I want to live right now because this is what I have, but I want to really enjoy it. And I want to really put some perspective on it. Just like I am really enjoying that I'm wearing some of my imperfect knits and crocheted things. You want to hear one of the dumbest struggles I've had lately? I've hated this haircut since I've almost immediately gotten it. It's gotten better. I had her try to do the front with a little bit of, but it didn't work out. So I have a front section that's just a little bit longer and it seems quite abrupt. I do actually kind of like the length here, but I don't know if I'd be happier if I chopped it up and let it go back. So that's why I'm just trying to deal with the part I don't like until it gets to a better place. And I keep reminding myself that's a life lesson. Somewhere in there, you've got a life lesson. So, look with your heart first. I have enjoyed chatting. I've been looking forward to this for days. But now I need to get on the project at hand. I wish you fun in your upcoming projects, and let's chat.